Most of us have been in a situation where we've had to give up responsibility, whether we're obligated to or forced to. We had to give responsibility to someone else. And most of us have probably given responsibility to someone else at one point in their life, and that responsibility either not be taken seriously, whether it be underappreciated, undervalued, and not handled correctly. In the case of Cobell versus Salazar, many Native Americans were upset and frustrated with the way that the U.S. government had been holding up their part of the Indian Trust Act in managing tribal lands and Native American properties. In that case, many Native American representatives filed a lawsuit against the U.S. government, a class action lawsuit, which is said to be one of the biggest class action lawsuits in the history of the United States. And what this lawsuit was intended to do was grant Native Americans money and assets to repurchase and reacquire the lands that have been lost. And many of these lands were lost during the Dawes Act, following the Dawes Act, whenever the U.S. government had forced Native Americans to move on properties much smaller or differently allocated to what they were accustomed to. Most properties were divided up into 40 to 160 acres at that time when they were forced to move on to new properties. And some Indians, Native Americans, did follow suit and follow the regulations that were put in place, while other Indians did not do so, and they failed to either resisted the change or didn't understand exactly what they were supposed to do. And that really caused some issues, and some Native Americans lost their lands, and at that time, once they had lost their lands, they could be acquired by anybody, not just Native Americans in that reservation. And following that, many lands were lost, and today, with that $1.9 million that came out of the settlement between Cobell and Salazar, is being used to repurchase and reacquire these lands. And as Jared Davidson speaks in his publication, "This land is my land, this land is your land," he discusses the process that is used to reacquire these lands. And in the first part of the process is to outreach and contact. This is getting together with people who may be on lands that are looking to leave, whether they be at a retirement age, or they've been wanting to move, or they're looking to get out. They're really targeting people of that nature, or people who are unaware of the possibilities to sell their land. That's the first process, is getting in touch with those possible candidates. And the second process is to research the market value of the property. That way they're being fair with whoever's selling their property. They want to make sure that they're getting a fair amount for what they have, and that they're not being undervalued or underappreciated, and not being dealt with fairly. And then the third process is mass valuation techniques. And this is basically evaluating everything that is in the area that can be possibly acquired, making sure that it fits the nature. It's not something that they're not going after things that have no value necessarily for starting out. They're making sure they're targeting the right areas and doing the right thing. And then the final process that Jared discusses in his publication is the acquisition and sending out applications, the final part of the procedure. And what this does is, this is them reacquiring the land and purchasing. As simple as that. And the process is they like to send out applications instead of having people come get applications. They feel like that is an easier way to reach out to them, makes them interested, and believe that, some people don't know about things, and when they if they offer to, purchase their property, they'll send them an application. Some people are still unaware of potentially being able to sell their property to the tribal nation.